I know also that I can be of service to both equally. For my only aim in life is to give a concrete form to Sri Aurobindo's great teaching. And in his teaching, he reveals that all the nations are essentially one and meant to express the divine unity upon earth through an organized and harmonious diversity.
Words of our Divine Mother from the book The Supreme Discovery, Chapter 1, Discover the Divine. Fourth topic, the steps to take. Our Divine Mother says this is the first thing necessary, aspiration for the divine. Our Divine Mother says the first moment of aspiration is this. You have a kind of vague sensation that behind the universe there is something which is worth knowing, which is probably for you. Do not yet know it. The only thing worth living for, which can connect you with the truth. Something on which the universe depends, but which does not depend upon the universe, something which still escapes your comprehension, but which seems to you to be behind all things. I have said here much more than the majority of people feel about the thing, but this is the beginning of the first aspiration. To know that, not to live in this perpetual falsehood where things are so perverted and artificial, this would be something pleasant, to find something that is worth living for. The next thing you have to do is to tend this aspiration, to keep it always alert and awake and living. Instead of telling yourself once in a while, oh yes, I am thinking of finding the divine, just when there is something unpleasant, when you are a little disgusted because you feel tired. Instead, indeed, there are very many flimsy reasons. All of a sudden, you remember that there is such a thing as yoga, something like the divine, to know who can get you out of this flatness of life. And for that, what is required is concentration. Concentration upon the divine, with a view to an integral and absolute consecration to the will and purpose. Our Divine Mother says this is the second step. That is to say, you begin wanting to find the divine and know the divine and live it. You must feel at the same time that the thing is so precious, so important, that your entire life is not sufficient for acquiring it. Then the first moment is a self-giving. You tell yourself, I do not want any longer to belong to myself for the sake of my little personal satisfaction. I wish to belong to this marvelous thing which one must find, must know, must live, for which I aspire. Our Divine Mother says, concentrate in the heart. Concentrate in the heart, enter into it, Go within and deep and far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad. Roll them up and take a plunge and sink down. Let me repeat. Concentrate in the heart. Enter into it. Go within and deep and far as you can. Gather all the strings of your consciousness that are spread abroad. Roll them up and take a plunge and sink down. Naturally, when I speak of the heart, I do not mean the physical organ, the viscera, but the psychological or the psychic center of the being. Next topic, make it the most important need. Our Divine Mother says, I don't know to whom I was mentioning this today. I think it was for a birthday. No, I don't know now. It was to someone who told me he was 18 years old. I said, between the ages of 18 and 20, I had attained a constant and conscious union with the Divine Presence, and that I have done this all alone without anyone's help, not even books. When a little later I chanced upon Vivekananda's Raja Yoga, it really seemed so wonderful to me that someone could explain something to me, and it helped me realize in a few months what would otherwise have taken years. I met a man, perhaps 20 or 21 at that time, an Indian who had come to Europe, who told me of the Gita. There was a French translation of it, a rather poor one, which he advised me to read, and then he gave me the key. He said, read the Gita. Of course, the translation, which wasn't worth much. In those days, I wouldn't have understood anything in other language, and besides, the English translations were bad. Well, Sri Aurobindo had done it, hasn't done it yet. He said, read the Gita knowing that Krishna is the symbol of the immanent God, the God within. That was all. Read it with that knowledge, with the knowledge that Krishna represents the innate God, the God within you. Well, within a month, the whole thing was done. So some of you people have been here since the time you were toddlers. Everything has been explained to you. The whole thing has been served to you on a silver platter, not only with words but through psychic aid. In every possible way, you have been put on the path of this inner discovery, and then you just go on drifting along. When it comes, it will come if you can spare it that much thought. So that's how it is. Our Divine Mother says, but I am not at all discouraged. I just find it rather laughable. Only there are other far more serious things. For example, when you try to deceive yourself, that is so pretty. One should not mix up cats and kings. You should say a cat, a king, a human instinct. Not speak about things divine when they are utterly human. Not pretend to have supramental experience when you are living in an ordinary consciousness. If you look at yourself, our Divine Mother says, if you look at yourself straight in the face and you see what you are, And then, if by chance you should resolve to, but what really astounds me is that you don't even seem to feel an intense need to do this. But how can we know? Because you do know you have been told over and over again, it has been drummed into your heads. You know that you have a divine consciousness within you, and yet you go on sleeping night after night, playing day after day, doing your lessons an infinitum, and still not have a burning desire and will to come into contact with yourselves. Yes, the you just there inside, motion towards the center of the chest. Really, it's beyond me. Our Divine Mother says, as soon as I found out, and no one told me, I found out through an experience. As soon as I found out that there was a discovery to be made within myself, well, it became the most important thing in the world. It took precedence over everything else. And when, as I told you, I chanced upon a book or an individual that could give me just a little clue and tell me, here, if you do such and such, you will find your path. Well, I charged into it like a cyclone and nothing could have stopped me. And how many years have been all there, half asleep? And how many years have you all been here? Half asleep? Naturally, you are happy to think about it now and then, especially when I speak to you about it, sometimes when you read. But that fire, that will which flows through all barriers, which plows through all barriers, that concentration which can triumph over everything. Now, who was it that asked me what you should do? The child says, me. Well, that's what you have to do, my child. I have just told you, says our Divine Mother. Let's start our journey.